So, welcome back. We are going to talk at you again about the adventure that we are creating.
Indeed. Last time we set up the situation, short version is we have characters who are being secretly or not so secretly spirited away for unethical medical testing, and there's going to be conspiracy involved. Mm-hmm. So today, what I'm going to ask Ian about is a very simple question, and he's going to have about 5 minutes to answer it. Mm-hmm. The simple question is, for this adventure, what sort of mechanical traits are we going to build into our characters? What kind of challenges are we going to be looking at in general? How is tension going to be maintained in a system without random rolls for this adventure?
All right. So, what we're doing here is we're going to set up a situation where the characters are fitting the profile. To do that, you need to set up a list of traits and say, okay, everybody, you need to have some of the traits on this list. And the players will probably, for themselves, prevent there being too much overlap because they don't want to be the same. But if there is overlap, don't worry too much about it. You just need to know that the players are going to fit the profile that you want for this. And you don't necessarily need to make this all about the in-game profile that Biodynamics is looking for either. Body Dynamics?
Biodynamics.
Biodynamics, right. Because
Body Dynamics is probably one of their subsidiaries dealing with like the aesthetics of prosthetics.
Yeah, that's probably a
catchphrase.
It's probably a customer-facing imprint or something. So the GM's needs are slightly different from the in-world needs. The in-world needs will be covered, so you should probably have some things on your list, like all of you need to have at least one of these physical traits, which represent the kinds of things that behind the scenes get the characters picked for this sort of thing. Excuse me. And in addition to that, you probably want to have a list of traits that says, and your characters must be skilled or have good talents in one of these areas. And that ensures that you have characters who are capable of noticing and trying to do something about the conspiracy that they're going to be caught up in.
Can you give us an example of a quick sample list? Let's say we're doing this for 4 players. We know we've got 4 players. What's a sample list of traits that we might ask for?
So, for physical traits, you might say runner, strong, healthy. You might say you might have a list of good physical skills like martial arts or weightlifting or track and field, various other things.
For those of you keeping track at home, this is why it's going to be a very good reason that it's going to be transcribed, because nobody can read this.
Especially not with the glare from the camera and all that. So we're going to be transcribing these into a document that we post for our Patreon patrons. So in the mental side of things, you're going to want to have things like perceptive, and maybe some legal knowledge would be a possibility, or some knowledge of video editing, maybe some computer expertise in hacking or database searching, which sounds like a boring skill, database searching, but in the world of Downbelow, it's actually one of the more powerful skills you can have, because you can find just about anything if you can search the right databases.
What about contacts? Are we going to define necessary connections?
It's not necessary for players to have connections, but it would be good to encourage them to have some connections. And it honestly doesn't matter what kind of connections they define as their traits, because having connections anywhere to anybody will make this problem that they're getting drawn into more of a problem, because their connections will be probably relying on them for something, and this situation that they're getting drawn into is going to yank them out of that situation. Important connections that you will need to pay attention to are if they have connections to law enforcement, or if they want to have connections with a corporation that has anything to do with the type of situation that this is, with the type of conspiracy that they're getting drawn into. It in no way means that you shouldn't let them have it, nor does it mean that you should make sure that they have these, but if they have connections which are directly relevant to the situation, then you need to know that and plan for it as a GM, because those are going to be some powerful successes when they invoke them. Similarly, not as directly relevant, but on Nuevo Paradiso in particular, since there are a bunch of different organized crime organizations that they could have a direct connection to on the island, you're going to need to know if they have those connections, because those could provide them great ways to get information or to get things done that could help them figure out that they are the victim of a conspiracy and or do something about it.
All right, and that covers a lot of the setup, especially on the player-facing side. So tune in again tomorrow when we are going to launch into the introductory scene and talk about some details.
And that'll get us to the GM-facing side. So, until then.